Hi, this is Nicole with Illinois Moms for Change, and I'm here with Nick Uniejewski, who is running for Illinois State Senate in the 6th District. Hi, Nick.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. I'm excited to just get to spend a little bit of time introducing your candidacy to our audience and making the pitch for why you want to be the state senator for the 6th district. So I want to just jump in. Your background is in community organizing, and I wonder if you can speak a little bit about like the transition that you're hoping to make from that to serving as a state senator, and why you think that we need strong leadership in Illinois State Senate.
Yeah, we need Democrats now who will throw a punch against this
Mhm.
hateful federal government and all they're doing right now, and also against the status quo here that just isn't really meeting the moment.
Yeah.
So for me, I got my start when Trump got elected the first time in 2016, and I was an English major, and my whole plan was I wanted to be a writer.
Yeah.
And then I thought, okay, let's take this love of storytelling and bring it to community organizing. So got involved in a number of campaigns. I worked for this woman, Marie Newman, who ran against this out of step, anti choice, entrenched Democrat who was just there a long time and was not connected to the community at all. But Marie Newman stood for everything that I care about: fundamental right to an abortion, freedom to love and marry whoever you choose, that immigrants are great assets to our community and deserve our support. And she beat them.
Yeah.
And that taught me that when you work hard, when you organize, when you never waver on your values, you can push the party where it needs to go. In between all that, I've been a pro-choice organizer statewide when we codified Roe v. Wade here. I worked in city government in Chicago and social services on things
Hmm.
like homelessness and violence prevention and youth and childcare programs. And in between all that, in the last year, 2 years now, I started hosting these things called salons. They're very grassroots gatherings, maybe 10 to 15 people a time, where we get together and we talk about things like housing or healthcare or childcare, whatever. And we've done over 250 now in the last year.
That's
Um,
incredible.
what became so clear to me is that a lot of the fights ahead are going to be here, state and local level. So
Hmm.
again, we need Democrats who will fight a lot harder for our people. And in our district, it's the north side of the Chicago. It's places like Lincoln Park and Lakeview, North Center, Lincoln Square, and generally everywhere from River North and Gold Coast up the lakefront to Buena Park, where I live, and
Hmm.
then kind of northwest through Wrigleyville all the way up to Ravenswood Manor.
Yep.
Um, this district has not had a contested primary since 1972. It has been a very long time since people in this district even had an option for what kind of Democrat they want to send to Springfield to fight for them. And
Yeah.
I think it's one that really will throw down for your neighbors right now. The issues we face on the north side are not too much different from a lot of the state, certainly the country right now. It's housing. We have a lot of people that want to buy a home, but they can't because
Yep.
that housing stock doesn't exist, or they're longtime owners or renters in the district who are just getting priced out, whether it's through rising property taxes or corporate landlords just price gouging rents because they can. And
Yeah.
so a lot of the things that I want to do are structural reforms to things like zoning statewide so we can legalize things like coach houses and four flats by right. So
Hmm.
you can just build them. We also have to do things like pop the hood on construction codes and say, hey, why does it cost so much money to build in the first place? We're running on these codes that have just not been updated in 100 years. So we can
Yeah.
do tiny tweaks like that. We also have to go after the bad actors, private equity, corporate landlords who gouge people because they can. So we can tighten up, put some regulations in place. We also have more people in our district that take transit to work than anywhere else in the state. So public transit is a big important thing for me. And we
Hmm.
can't just continue to fund systems that refuse to evolve with the times. We
Yep.
need dedicated bus lanes on Lakeshore Drive. We need more pedestrian infrastructure because in our part of the state, we have a lot of pedestrian accidents. And it's some people, going to and from Lakeshore Drive, but it's also kids getting killed around schools because it's just not safe to bike there or walk there.
Yeah.
And it doesn't need to be this way. So if we can use some state capital funds for things like concrete dedicated bike lanes, for more pedestrian safety improvements, it certainly will help the people walking to and from school. That'll also help drivers too, so you don't just scan back and forth across the street. And then the through line for me in Illinois, we're pretty lucky. We have a Democratic supermajority. We have
Yeah.
the House, Senate, great governor. So when you realize a lot of these issues keep compounding, cost of housing keeps going up, cost of childcare keeps going up, healthcare costs going up. It's not really that we need more Democrats here; it's that we need better ones.
Yeah.
who want to listen and do things differently and challenge the status quo. And in this race, that is something that uniquely I can provide.
I think it's so important. You talk about the like small integral pieces of housing, of construction and of road infrastructure, and folks don't realize like how in the weeds you can get and how important it is, not just for your district, but across the state to and certainly across Chicagoland to update and to codify some new policy in those. So thanks for naming all that. You referenced a little bit like that your seat has not been the seat that you're running for has not been challenged in a very long time. Can you speak a little bit? So the incumbent Sarah Feigenholtz, can you speak a little bit about like what differentiates you from her candidacy?
The number one thing is I'm not taking any corporate money.
Mm,
I want to fight hard for the people who actually live here, not whoever writes me the biggest checks. And so when you look at a lot of the issues we face statewide, we have healthcare premiums that have doubled or tripled in the last year,
yeah.
even in the last couple of weeks. And at the state level, we can do a number of things. We can expand our healthcare so much we effectively do have a public option, like California has done. Or what I really want to do, I want a prescription drug affordability board so we can have
Mm,
the state of Illinois negotiate more prescription drug prices, which is ultimately building on what President Biden had done a few years ago.
yeah.
We can do that here. And that's a piece of legislation that I support that the incumbent does not. And when you look at campaign finance reports, you see checks to her from Pfizer, from AstraZeneca, from DaVita. I mean, you are never going to fight for the people who actually live here when you have those
Yeah.
huge entities paying your bills. It's also on things like energy companies. I want to really rein in data and AI because we're seeing this rise in these companies who want to come to Illinois. Fine.
Hmm.
But we're also seeing energy prices go up and that get passed on to every consumer with wages really staying the same.
Yeah.
So at the state level, we can expand our energy grid, we can introduce new renewable sources. And again, you look at our incumbent state senator and she's cashing checks from Ameren, from ComEd, from Nicor, from People's Gas. Um,
Hmm.
you do not understand the urgency of this moment when you are taking money from the very entities you're supposed to regulate. It's also the style of governing for us. We have done over 250 events in the last year. We have
Hmm.
knocked on 60,000 doors across the north side of Chicago, which is no easy feat.
No, that's
But
amazing.
that, yeah, and I love doing it. I do.
Yeah.
I get plenty of Ring doorbell screenshots of me sent to me. But and keep them coming. I love them. But
Yeah.
uh, that's how I think the best policies are designed. When I worked in city government, my role was to follow research and data and best practices, and update our programs at the times. Uh, the best policies are drafted when you surround yourself with the people that are closest to the issues,
Hmm.
and that's what I've been doing through organizing for a long time. But it's also what I want to do as your state senator. In this district, of course, I would represent the north side of Chicago. That is my main focus. At the end of the day, those are the people who I fight for the most. My vote in the state senate would also carry all across this state
Yeah.
because if you get a champion in there who will throw down against insurance companies, who will fight all these big energy conglomerates that just want to keep things the way things are, um, then I will build those coalitions statewide so we can actually get big stuff done.
Yep.
And that's just really not happening right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that it's so important to acknowledge, first of all, the role of corporate money. And I know most progressive Democrats want to see Citizens United overturned. I think all progressive Democrats want to see Citizens United overturned. But in the meantime, we need ethical candidates who are paying attention to and caring about where their money comes from. So thank you for naming that. And also, thank you, shout out for talking about AI and big data. In my community just yesterday or last night, I was at our city council meeting until 11 p.m. when they shut down a new data center in our community, and we need people fighting against that. So thanks for naming that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I think people think about the long term, but I also want to talk about the urgency of right away. If you are elected and get down to Springfield, what are your like most urgent first priorities?
The number one thing is we need to do something about our housing crisis.
Yeah.
There's a number of bills that can be passed at the state level. I mentioned a few: zoning reform to legalize different
Hmm.
types of housing, which things like coach houses are illegal to build in a lot of the state right now. And that's really that soft density of like first time home buyers and also people who
Hmm.
are downsizing. That would unlock a lot of opportunity for people to live in the communities they love. It's that, it's construction code reform on things like staircases and elevators, which sounds like a yawn for most people. But
But
when you
also,
imagine, but yeah, when you imagine uh, the other states that have done these reforms, they're able to get more housing on the market. And in a place like Austin in Texas, they have built
hmm,
so much housing through all these reforms that rents actually went down. People were able
yeah.
to live there because it was just simply more affordable. And the sad thing about our housing crisis is we are 300,000 housing units short across the entire state of Illinois. And we have
Mm.
known this for a long time. The governor has put out multiple task forces and committee reports saying, hey, here are 15 pieces of legislation I need from the state legislature to help. And the state legislator has sent him zero. So that is understanding the urgency of this crisis. In the
Hmm.
state Senate, we don't even have a housing committee. So that would be number one:
Yeah.
get the housing committee and then get these legislative maneuvers through. Because if we do not build more housing, people are going to continue to leave our state and it's just not affordable. And they're going to move to states that have done these big housing reforms. And they're states like Montana, they're states like Texas,
Yeah.
which are making it more affordable. Um, we know that having more people in our communities is a net positive for everything. It gets more neighbors there, helps the schools, it helps the tax burden, so it's all split among more properties and more people. It
Hmm.
grows businesses in the area. And on top of it all, the states that are making these reforms are generally speaking like those so-called like Republican states. And if we do not build more housing as Democrats in Illinois, there is a chance we could never win a presidential election again. We need to get more people here. We need to make it more affordable for
Yeah.
people to live here and stay here. And so that is really the number one thing for me because there's so much we can do. But after knocking on the 60,000 doors, that is by far the number one issue. It is universal everywhere. People cannot afford to live in their communities.
Yeah. And so much of the national conversation is about, right? I think about like these 50-year mortgages where you're just like indentured to a mortgage your entire life, and that
So,
the median first-time home buyer is 40 years old now. Like, and the policies that you're talking about would help middle class families, working class families, diverse families. It just like it helps to solidify not only the number of people in our community, but the diversity of our communities. And so I'm with you. That urgency is so important that we lock in new housing policy. So it's
yeah.
great.
Mhm.
Um, in line with that, I think, housing is fundamental to all folks, but families especially. And our platform mostly speaks to Illinois moms. And I wonder if you could talk a little bit about how, if elected, you would pursue policy and use your position to support Illinois moms and Illinois families.
Yeah. So much of our issues overlap with each other. And my approach to all things has always been looking at them through this intersectional lens.
Hmm.
When I was a pro choice organizer years ago, I would be in charge of navigating the entire state. And how I would talk about things like abortion in Chicago is different than how I talk about it in Rockford, different than how I
Hmm.
talk about it in Peoria. And you never waver on your values. Like I'm very clear with where I stand on things. But you really got to listen to people first. And the number one thing I hear from parents in this city is really about housing. They can't afford to stay. But I would love to have these salons that I've continued to do now over the last 2 years and keep that going as a state senator because I think for so many people, politics is something that is almost too much to handle.
Yeah.
And I'm very thankful for platforms like yours that make it easy and fun. But you have to surround yourself with people that think a little differently than you. And
Hmm.
at the state level, that's kind of missing right now. We
Yeah.
can do so much on things like childcare, and I'm very thankful that we have a new department that's going to be rolling things out over the next year now. We also have to make sure our schools are fully funded. We need to have our evidence-based formula in Chicago actually funded properly because we're millions of dollars short from the state government right now. We do need to scale up infrastructure too, so we can have it safe for kids to get to and from school. And when
Yep.
you look at the world from, you know, 3 feet tall, the world looks a little different, and it's just not safe. So we can do all of those things. And I, pledge to all of you as the next state senator from the 6th district, I want to surround myself with people who really want to collaborate on things because I think that's the best way you can design policies by doing it together.
I appreciate that. Yeah, collaboration and you've talked several times about listening as a politician, and I think it is undervalued the importance of listening. So thank you for naming that as well, Nick. I want to be respectful of your time and let you go. But is there anything else before we do that you want to share with voters across the 6th district and across Illinois?
This race is an opportunity to elect a different kind of Democrat, one that listens, one that fights hard, and one who's willing to do the work and build the coalition statewide. In our race, there has not been a contested primary for decades, but we are really in alignment with the people here. This district is all the big neighborhoods in Chicago. It's Lakeview, it's Lincoln Park, it's North Center, but it's
Mhm.
also a lot of change, right? We have a lot of people who move to this district for after college or after
Yep.
living in a different state because they choose to live here. I love living by the lakefront. I love the great restaurants, the bars, the culture on the north side, but really more than anything, I love the people. And we need Democrats now at the state level who are willing to listen and do the work. In our districts, too, we have a huge opportunity to make history on top of everything else. I'd be only the second openly gay state senator in Illinois history. And in this district, it covers the largest LGBTQ neighborhood in the Midwest,
Yep.
North Halstead and Boys Town.
Yep.
And it's not lost on me that the fights we have ahead are different. 40 years ago, the government told people like me that I deserve to die, right?
Mhm.
And now we look at all the fights ahead, whether it is our trans neighbors who are under attack all day long, every day by this president. We look at
Mhm.
ICE kidnapping people from the streets in North Center, in Lincoln Park, in Lakeview. We look at all the fights ahead with these huge corporations that want to dictate who gets health care and when. And it's about that listening and the collaboration again. All these things intersect. So you need a fighter. You
Yep.
need someone who's not just going to take things the way things are, but really, challenge the status quo here.
Yeah.
So
It's all
yeah,
intersectional.
it is. Right.
It
So,
is.
so election day is
Thank
March 17th. And
That's right. Thank you so much. And early voting starts February 5th. So we are right around the corner from these primaries. Nick, thank you so much for taking the time to chat today. I want to tell everybody that Nick's website is Nick for Illinois. You can learn more about his platform there, and you can find him on all the socials. I know Instagram, everywhere else too.
you can find me on everything. Nick for Illinois on Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, Twitter, and Facebook too.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Nick, and good luck in the next few weeks.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good one.